Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, and today we're discussing Chapter 19.
So before we get to Chapter 19, we should probably talk about what we talked about in Chapter 18. First off, we thought that when we got the reveal of Magician Girl 18, perhaps we may be singing, "Who's That Girl?" But, joke's on us, there's the girl is Dylan. Dylan is the girl. And
La 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 la
la la la. And the whole reason why he has been hiding behind this little screen name is because, surprise, surprise, he's a magician too. And his family has a legacy of tricking Merlin's magic ball in order to disguise the fact that a family of bigots is within holding magicians who are the scapegoats of their bigotry. So that's fantastic news, we think, possibly for Amari, but also a slightly sus. We also learn that there is a black book that is a magical key / treasure that Moreau may be after and will give him powers that are heretofore unseen in usage, and that the Bureau is hoping to keep away from him. And so that's part of the reason why he's doing what he's doing. He's maneuvering how he's maneuvering. And then while we're on the topic of Dylan and books, Dylan gives Amari a spell book that he just happens to have because he has been dabbling in this magician thing for longer than she has and has access to magical places. So now Amari's magician journey is being supported by actual tools and resources that could possibly help her be a better magician. But before she can even fully investigate the usage of this book, here comes Laura. And her whole thing is, why should you be doing things in private? I can barge into your room at any given time. Surprise, surprise. Oh, and you better leave this competition before I show my father, the inventor of Toaster Strudel, that you have been working magic on the sides, and I have it on camera. And that's where we leave Chapter 18 and embark on Amari's pressure into doing better, hopefully, but also not, in Chapter 19.
First off, why is her daddy the inventor of Toaster Strudel? Is that a thing? Did that come from somewhere?
In Mean Girls?
Ah.
Yeah.
I was like, I know that that's a quote or something, but I don't know. Okay, sorry. I was so enamored by the...
I mean, the way that the way that Laura and Dylan name drop their father for the several things, I mean, it's the same way that Gretchen Wieners does. So, same movement, same actions.
Why is it, sorry, this has nothing to do with the story, but more to do with podcasting in general and me being late. Why is everything changing while I'm trying to quietly figure this out? All the UI different.
I mean, they completely changed it, completely.
They completely changed Anchor. It's a whole new different thing. To say all this to say, we asked you guys, would you go meet Magician Girl 18 if you were Amari? We asked on our wherever you listen. I guess Spotify has a Q&A thing. I don't use Spotify, so it's really funny because I cannot visualize it. But Spotify has a Q&A button. And then we asked on Twitter and Patreon if you're a baddie. And so the new way to do the Q&A or the interact with the new Spotify UI is actually really great. It's just that I didn't check it beforehand before we started recording, so I got
confused. No, because they
confused. But I really like it. I'm excited for it moving forward. But I was confused. Anyway, our buddy Hal said that 12-year-old him may have went and met Magician Girl 18, but 38-year-old him says, oh, nah. And I like, you know what, Hal? It's fair. Because, like, I still think, like, I'm trying, you know, you have to, I love reading middle grade books. I love how exciting they are. But we kind of talked about this when we were reading Harry Potter, as well as, like, when we first read Harry Potter, we were that age, and then, like, the more and more you read it, and the older you are, but, like, the characters stay the same age, and you're like, oh no, baby, what is you doing? It's a little bit harder now because the first time I read Amari, I was an adult. I'm just like, couldn't be me. And I'm trying to tap into 12-year-old Robyn. I don't think 12-year-old Robyn would have done it either, just because I'm very asocial. I'm not antisocial. I don't need, supervision or, like, interventions, but I am asocial, as in I opt out as much and as often as possible. So I even 12-year-old Robyn, I don't think I would have met Magician Girl 18, or I think we talked about this in a previous episode, I probably would have gotten, like, on the elevator and then chickened out and went home. But Hal is being honest with himself and saying, like, yeah, maybe. At one point in my life.
Yeah, I feel like thing is fair.
Like, and the only thing that's sidelining me is, like, we are all, like, internet friends that met, but I think it's because, like, we also, like, we saw each other. We made sure we weren't being catfished before we decided to meet up. Like, she didn't have any, like, video calls or anything with Magician Girl.
Most of us met, like, I do, like, think of, like, internet friendships as, like, you still need to be careful and all this stuff, but I do think at a certain point in an internet friendship, like, this person, like, I don't know. I did watch the Manti Te'o documentary, so I should be a little bit more skeptical. But I do feel like by the time I met Porshèa, for example, in real life, like, I knew you. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like if we had a relationship, and, like, yeah, I guess we did. Like, but I think that's also part of having relationships, is, like, getting on FaceTime or sharing pictures and things like that. So, like, I don't think I would ever want to meet someone if my relationship with them hadn't gotten to that point too, right? Like, there are people that I'm still, like, I'm friends with on the internet, and I've made friends with through the internet. But, like, one of I was willing to be like, oh, you need me to drop everything and fly to Chicago? Just let me know when, like, because I know them, even though I haven't met them.
Yeah, but it's also, like, there's the part of, like, being adults, so, being able to make those risks and decisions. Not that completely, like you said, like, there are plenty of documentaries and, like, things that, like, show how folks get caught up in ways and they're grown, so it's not even that. But, like, again, there are certain, also because we have those things, like, we know certain red flags, like, oh, you don't want to get on a call, oh, you're not going to share, like, pictures of yourself, like, those kinds of things aren't necessarily, like, sometimes people are just, like, private, but if you're, like, trying to build a deeper, like, relationship with someone, you definitely have to be more careful. I think for me it was a lot easier too, because, like, I think Robyn met everyone before I did, which was not, like, on purpose. It was more just, like, I think when Robyn met Porshèa, I think I probably had just moved, or, like, you know what I mean? So certain things like that.
Yeah.
So then
Robyn just be traveling like that.
Robyn was just out here, and I was, like, at the time, this is, like, years ago, like, Robyn was like, oh, I'm going to this thing, or I'm going to this thing, and I was like, I just moved, I'm not going nowhere. But, like, the first time I met Porshèa in person, she was staying in my apartment, but I already knew that she was a real person,
makes me laugh.
It's a weird thing, because I would not do that in any other situation, but we had been like friends for like at least a year, probably 2. Robyn had met her in person. Like, so I'm like, Portia's a real person, right? It's not it's not like it's like, oh, I don't know, it's just some rando like who I've sort of been cool with. Like, no, like she's a real person. She's the homie. So yes. But again, you have to have that like discernment, and like it's.
And I think the first time I met Porshèa, correct me if I'm wrong, Porshèa, but I met like 4 people at once. Because I think I met you and Deb and
maybe Connie.
I think I'd met Connie one time beforehand because I had gone to New York like twice in like 1 year. Or maybe I'd met, I don't know, but it wasn't just like, oh, Robyn's out here. Like I also,
it was like everybody's meeting each other.
Yeah, like this, everyone was meeting everyone in a public space in New York. And like, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like, I had met them before Bayana, but I also hadn't just like, me and Porshèa gonna grab coffee. I think the first time I met Connie, I was like, we were in Times Square, which is like probably the worst place to meet people, but like, if things went left, I was in Times Square, I'd have been like, oh. So yeah. I still think though, it's just interesting to note that like, there's also no real I guess I was gonna say there's no real like downside to me like meeting people off the internet, but that's not true. But like Amari is taking like a huge risk in general of just meeting someone that they like kind of met, because the person has been very secretive and hasn't done the kind of like, anti-catfishing things that we think of, but also because person has like saying that they're a magician, which is an illegal thing. Amari has been told that she's going to be watched closer than the average trainee. Like there's just like a lot more at stake, and her being 12 and not really having that like kind of long-term thinking, which is not her fault. Her medulla oblongata ain't there yet. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, she's missing some things. Her frontal lobe is not fully frontal lobing. And so it just is like, yes, it's a risky thing, but it's like way riskier.
Yeah. And I also
the person
will say,
is a magician.
Like, yeah. And I will say that, like, for me, I probably wouldn't have met anyone like that as at her age. But that's because I'm just not meeting up with people, period. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even like it wasn't because, oh, it can be dangerous. It's like, no, I just literally somebody had messaged me. Like, granted, we did not have social media and phones when we were this age. So there's that as well.
Thank God for that.
Thank God, for real. But like, I probably would see that and I would have just not responded. I'd have been like, this is weird. I'm going to just block and move on. And then I would have missed out on a whole lot of stuff, but I wouldn't have been in Amari's position in the first place, which we've discussed. I would not be trying to be an agent.
Right. We would have been over there in our magical librarian program.
Like, we're going to research our way into finding Quentin. I don't know. We're going to read all the books.
There's something in a database somewhere, and by God, we're gonna find it. Mm-hmm. All right, so that was our question for last week, or the last 2, whatever. That was our last question.
Time is
now we're going
relative.
into chapter 19, and so we end with Laura being like, "You gotta quit, or I'm going to tell on you." And I understand the like kind of urgency that Amari's feeling right now, because I think like, if she does it, if she does quit, I guess is the best way to say it. She still gets to stay if she quits and Laura holds up her end of the bargain of not telling on her, she still gets to stay in the program, not as an investigator, but like she can transfer to a new department, and it might put her behind and all this stuff, but like you know, her goal is to find Amari, and so Quentin, and so she still has a chance to do that just from from the Department of Library Sciences. But I also, when reading this part, was just very like upset. So she says, like, as much as I dreaded possibly failing the tryout, it would have been nice to at least get the chance to see what I could do. And she'd started her own investigation. She started to like feel like she was an agent and she could do this, you know? And like, even though her primary goal is to find Quentin, she started to kind of buy into the supernatural world and being a part of it. And then to have all of that kind of like snatched from her, or potentially snatched from her, but by blackmail, is just, ugh. Laura sucks.
And even, Laura really sucks. But also, even like, it's like being in the world, but then also she got really far in her investigation too. Like, she also talks about that. And like, she was able to do so much in such a short amount of time. And again, Laura decided that for some reason this is her business, and it sucks.
It kind of reminds me of, we think about like all, like, what was the name of that? Hidden Figures. But we always think about like all of the people who did something like amazing and didn't get credit for it, or it got stolen from them because of oppressive systems and racism, normally 9 times out of 10. And then we, like, whenever we talk about that, there's the inevitable of like, who else could have, like, who else's potential, you know what I mean? Like, yes, I'm thinking about Zora Hurston because of that stupid TikTok, but like, she passed away in like a pauper's, like, unmarked, I don't know if it was unmarked, but in like a pauper's grave, and like was kind of forgotten about or not celebrated her role until after death, and that's like really an awful thing. But we now at least have had the ability to like find her work, celebrate her, and like she's now held up as this like really important, impactful figure. But like there's so many people like the Zora Neale Hurstons of the world who are still just in that unmarked grave and we haven't found. And like reading this just made me think about how structures and oppressive systems and people like the Lauras of the world can really like shut down someone's potential before it even starts, right? And like everything, like if Amari quits here, like what could she have accomplished? What could she have done that we just would not get because she's been forced to like into these like different decisions outside of, whatever. And it just made me really sad.
Yeah, definitely.
And, I don't like to talk bad about 12-year-olds, but Laura sucks and she can catch these hands. I'll beat a kid. I'll beat a kid up.
Yeah, it's a good thing Laura's fictional.
It's a good thing because I'd kick her.
I actually did write somewhere. Oh, I'll get there. We'll get there. I wasn't sure if it was this chapter or next chapter, but it's this one. So I'll wait until we get to that point. But like, okay, so Amari's going down to, she goes to the Department of Supernatural Investigations to find Magnus. And so she's like trying to look for the offices. And it's kind of like, so she kind of like peeks into a couple of places because she's nosy and she's also trying to figure out where she is. So she peeks into the strategy room, sees a bunch of folks in army fatigues arguing as they huddle over a Battleship board game. But she's like, whatever they're talking about sounds serious. There's another door with no plaque, but they're shouting from the inside. And this is hilarious. It says, "You tell the governor that if he didn't want his house pushed into the lake, then he shouldn't have cleared that forest. Seems to me the Yetis were only returning the favor." And we had discussed before about the Yetis being like in the mafia or something, or being the mafia. Like that very much gave that added to that headcanon for sure.
I'm very much with this stance of like whichever agent or whatever is replying to, like, you can tell the governor that if he didn't want his house pushed into the lake that he shouldn't have cleared the forest. It seems to me the Yetis were only returning the favor. I was like, oh, okay, yes. Always side against the colonizers. Like, let's go. Like, if we're going to be doing that consistently, I want that to be an agent, like a departmental stance. Like, always be on the side of the people indigenous to the land. Yes, let's do that.
Also, I just feel like the what's the word? Like, the amount, I don't even think of it as like hatred. I think it's just like righteousness to push a whole house into the lake. Just like, you know what? Like,
them foundations was gone. They was crumbling.
They're like, it's over. I'm pushing it. The whole thing is going in the lake. Like, I love that for them. And then, so she finds Magnus's door, but it's locked. And then, but then she hears his laugh across the hall in Agent Fiona's office. So she knocks on the door. Magnus opens and is like, kind of in the middle of something. What do you want? And we're like, oh, you're in the middle of something. Interesting. Turns out what they're in the middle of is a date, which is very cute.
What is that? Department of Ethics, HR? Like, what is that? Because I know
that wasn't even my issue. Because I'm like, folks can, people do office.
They're on the same level dating. Though. It's not like it's
and they're not
a superior.
They're on the same. For me, it's more like
why y'all having a date in the department building?
Like, I was just like, are y'all on call or like, can you not leave? Right. Or like, so then I was just thinking, like, do y'all get breaks? Like, this is where you have to have your romantic dinner, like on her desk. Like, I hate that for y'all. If that's the case, you need some more, work-life balance.
Yeah. I get that. What I was saying about the department is like there usually is, not that you can't date someone that you work with, but like your partner. That seems like a conflict. Like, I watch a lot of procedurals in Law and Order, and they just wouldn't allow it. You can't have a romantic entanglement with your partner because if Benson and Stabler taught you anything, it just leads to messiness. Okay, and then my other part of that is like like, why are you dating in the office? Like, and not in terms of like work-life balance, but just like, this is awkward for Mark. Why am I able to interrupt your date?
I think for
by meeting you in your place of business. It's not like I went to your door. It's
not like I'm knocking on your apartment door.
Yeah.
But then
I went to your office.
Yeah. And we'll kind of get into in a bit, like, there will be an explanation for like why they're still at the office. You know what I mean? Like why they're working or whatever. But like, still, like you said, then it's like, oh, do you have like no other time to date? Like it had to be tonight. I'm
sure they thought that this was like real cute because of what they're doing. You know what I mean? They're like, we got to be here, so we might as well
have dinner before we got to be here late. I mean, I get it.
But I also feel bad for Amari because I feel like she first off starts off this chapter sounding like a sad, dejected child with a like, it would have been nice to not feel like such disappointment for once. And I was just like, child, okay, all right, we're going through it. And then she's walking into this and it's like she's like, oh crap, now I'm interrupting the romance between this couple. Like it's just so much. And I'm like,
she was like, I don't want to make Agent Fiona disappointed in me. Agent Fiona went to bat for me. Oh shoot! Yeah. Now I'm blocking
interrupting her.
Yeah, she's like, dang, like I'm ruining the vibe. Like I can't catch
a break.
Is it me? Am I the drama? Am I the gray cloud? Like, is it me? Like, and I just feel so bad for her.
So Amari is like, I need to switch to another department. Fiona is like, don't tell me you've given up before you've even tested yourself. And then that's when Amari realizes they're on a date. Which, like, I think it actually maybe lifts her mood a little bit, because then she like cracks a joke, you know what I mean? Like, she's like, good job, Agent Fiona is way out of your league. So I feel like it kind of gives her a little bit of a, you know, kind of like seeing teachers out in the wild kind of situation where it's like weird, but like not in like a, it's just weird, I guess. So
I also want
anyway,
to note that Amari's asking for to be placed with a different department, but doesn't name a different department. Like, doesn't say like, oh, I want to go to. She doesn't really actually try to like, okay, if I gotta go, where could I go that I would fit me?
Right, because she didn't even. She just wrote the one spot, and then that was it. She's not actually interested in any other spot.
Yeah. Like at no point was she actually trying.
Because that, I think, if had she had English is difficult. Had she done that, then the response from Agent Fiona and Magnus might have been a little bit different. If she'd come in with like I would like to go here because XYZ, it might have been a little different.
I mean, I think they would have been. I think they would have still had.
They still have asked her about it.
I think they would have still got to the same end, like decision conclusion at the end. But yeah, I think they maybe would have like they would have been able to push in a different way. Like, why do you want to go here? What do you feel like this particular thing will like give you that this isn't? And like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that would have. Yeah. So Fiona is like, I've got half a mind to take a look at your intentions to see what's really behind the sudden change of heart. But I won't. And then she basically is just like, take the rest of the evening to decide, and then if you're still feeling this way tomorrow, then I'll sign the paperwork. And Amari's like, I definitely feel this way, like I'm definitely sure, but Magnus is like, just do it as a favor to me. You know. So I mean, I get it. Like, we'll see why they're like a little more pushy about it, but I also get it in terms of just like kids be making split decisions. And they again don't know she's being blackmailed, but like, hey, kids be just making these decisions sometimes, and you're like, are you sure?
The medulla oblongata is not medulla oblongata, and sometimes you just have to be.
But also, how sure is she if she doesn't have another option at hand?
Exactly. I'm sure.
And the other thing for me, I was like, how is she thinking that she can get to a different department when Van Helsing said that if she didn't make it work with this department this year, then she wouldn't be able to come back again until next year.
Yeah, no, I think if she failed completely, then she wouldn't be able to come back at all.
Yeah,
like, she won't be able to come back next year.
Yeah, but I'm saying like they said, like I think no, I don't think it was just Van Helsing. I think it was like everyone for their selections or something.
Yeah, everyone for their selections could come back. But I wonder. I mean, they didn't really.
They just have to be a trainee again. They don't, or they have to be a. Yeah, they don't get to become a junior agent. They're trainees.
Right. So I'm saying they don't get to train for another department until the next year.
Yeah, but I think because it's before the first trial, maybe there's like you have time to switch, which would still put her behind and stuff. But we'll never know because they were like sleep on it. But I do like agree with you, Porshèa, in terms of like not having anything extra. And I like, again, they're not teachers. This is a job placement program type of thing, summer camp. But I do like the, like, maybe not the do it as a favor to me, but like this, like just sleep on it. Just like, you know, take a beat. Because it's not saying no outright, which she would then have to go to Laura and say, like, they said no.
Right.
You know, so they don't know that she's being blackmailed, but it gives them, or it gives her like I can go to Laura and say like I tried and I have to try again tomorrow, and like that gives her some time. And all we need, as we see as this chapter goes on, is some time.
Yeah,
a little bit of time.
So she goes down to the sleep-ins, which I mean, granted, we've been on break, so I was like, I forgot the sleep-ins were happening, but it's not like
I did too.
Reading it right away. It's not like we were reading it like, you know, as you're supposed to read these books. So there's that. But they're being held in the training rooms, one for the girls, one for the boys. They change into their pajamas in the locker rooms, and they say the whole purpose is to relax and build friendships with other trainees before the tryout, which I think is a nice sentiment, but everybody's
y'all trainees suck.
Yeah,
pretty much. Trying to build camaraderie with mean people.
Speaking of trainees who suck, Lara hops off her bed and comes to Amari and is like, well, and Amari explains that she has to go back tomorrow. Lara's like, you'd better be sure. And then she turns and stomps back to her bed. And this is where I wrote in my notes, like, I wish somebody would trip her.
I will trip a kid.
It's one of those things where, like, you don't wish, like, it's not to the point. She's not like grown and evil. It's not to the point where you're like wishing death, and it's not Game of Thrones. You're not like wishing death on people, but I'm just like, I just want you to like step on a Lego, like something just real, like inconvenient and slightly painful that you'll recover from, but in that moment it feels really like bad. Like, just somebody just trip her.
Also, like, I would like her to visibly trip in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah, and fall on her face.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to break any bones, no blood, nothing. Just just like
public humiliation.
Yeah.
Just a little public humiliation never hurt nobody.
It would, for me, I'd need for there to be one of the people, one of the girls who's like around her to be like a more hardcore version of Gretchen Wieners, or like a Katie Haring basically, and just like be close to her, but really be trying to sabotage her and like just push her cot a little bit to the side, and so when she goes to sit back down, she's just like, ah!
Right,
and then like doesn't realize.
Yeah. Falls on the ground, like just little, like, little
just
stuff,
little things.
Yeah. When you said that, I wasn't trying to pull her wig. I was just trying to shift it
a little. Yeah, she just needs a little shift. Just a little
shift.
Like, literally, that's what she needs right now.
That's what she needs.
Before she can get, like, she obviously in real life needs like accountability and like whoop-de-whoop, like some consequences. But in the meantime, like, just little inconveniences.
In the meantime, she just needs to stub a toe, hurt her finger,
It's like little. And maybe if it builds up, she'll be like, is this karma?
She might learn a lesson. Why is it that every time I'm nasty to somebody, my big toe hurt?
Or right, or like I run into a window, like birds when they fly into windows. Like, just little stuff like that. So after Lara leaves and doesn't trip, unfortunately, Amari picks the bed farthest away from everyone else. Like, all the other girls have chosen beds that surround hers, which I'm just like, y'all, please, y'all don't have any other friend groups? Like, can we have, like...
I have never been that into...
enamored with one person.
I think I've always been that kid. I think I've always been that kid. I was like, if everyone else is, like, doing that, like, first off, I don't like people like that, so I don't want to be around a lot of people. I want, like, one or two people. Like, I don't need to be around a whole group of people. And now we're doing too much for me. Even if I was friends with one of the girls who, like, circled around Laura, I'd be like, see, you doing too much. I'm gonna go over here to the side, because I don't be over there.
Like, it's a lot.
Like, she's the sun and their planets, nah.
Like
nah. Like, how embarrassing.
Like,
everyone, I don't know if there are any children listening to this podcast. I doubt it, but, like, be your own sun, okay? Like,
right?
Like, let's not do this.
And if a sun feels too bright for you, be a moon, but on your own.
On your own, like, you know what I
mean? Need to be hovering around people who are just trying to soak up your energy. Like,
worry about your own axis, okay?
Chase a bag. Don't worry about what she doing.
But the other part about this that I thought was really interesting, this is a petty or small part, it's like, so you mean to tell me that we just go into this gymnasium, change to our pajamas, and go to bed? There was no activity.
No activity.
There was no team building.
Sorry, Robyn, but it sounds, because it's the same name. Sounds like a Robyn Dixon kind of like event.
But I know Robyn has not been watching, but
like under $15.
This family fun day with one fold out table and one of them like plastic coverings, a bunch of random snacks, and then was like, I don't know, y'all, we're just gonna, maybe we'll play a game. Like, no schedule, no plan, just out in the park, and it's windy. And like, yeah,
family fun day,
right? They just said, let's all go to bed.
Let's go to bed. Let's go to bed.
And that's when something should have felt fishy. Something
literally
some alert should have been going off in someone's brain.
Like this, there's no like guided. There's nobody there's no like adults in this room. There's no guided programming happening. Literally, just everybody can go talk to Lara while she talks about what the tryout's gonna be because she heard it from her dad or whatever. But
like I love a good sleep. I'm about to take a sleep. Like I'm about to go to sleep as soon as we finish up here. Like I already know. Bed is calling my name. But I remember one time, kind of, I guess this is a little Robin Dixie or whatever, someone invited me for a sleepover and they went to bed at like 9 p.m. and I don't go to bed that early because I'm in ADHD and I was like 20 something at the time. So I was like, I really not go to bed at 9.
Yeah.
And I was like, I be at home. Like even if I'm not doing anything, even if I was at home on the couch watching TV, I would have been at home on my own couch watching my own TV.
Yeah.
I would have been livid this entire time. I'm sleeping on a cot?
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
I could be hanging out with Elsie?
Right.
And y'all got me out here just so I could sleep on a cot and not talk to these people that I don't talk to on the regular? No, thank you. No, thank you.
No. Yep. And you would have fallen asleep irritated.
Irritated.
And then you would have woken up to somebody flicking you in the face. So yeah, Amari drifts off to sleep, and then a few minutes later, her eyes open. Her eyes open. Dylan is crouched over her, and he's like flicking her cheek.
Don't flick me when I'm sleeping.
It's just like, dude. But I also do get it on the other hand of like they arrived in this place. He woke up first, clearly sees her, she's still asleep, and he's like, all right, so
but not on my face.
Not on my face.
Why are you flicking my face?
You could just like shake me, like shoulder.
Grab my grab a shoulder. What? My face.
No. My face.
Like, hey, wake up. Like, sir, relax. But so Amari sits up and freezes. She's on the floor of a small library, and there's a dusty desk to her left and battered bookcases all around. Dylan's like, good, you're finally asleep. They're sharing a wakeful dream. This is the first tryout. Plot twist.
I need plot twist, but also like I need to know the mechanisms around this, because if I do not consent to a wakeful dream that is also being monitored, right?
I mean,
like people are watching.
I think that them being in the tryout and like signing up to your training
negates that. Whatever the consent form for being part of the departmental trials probably.
Yeah, I think it covers this.
Includes something about consent.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to her parent not being aware that any of this is going on.
That's true.
Y'all just can't lull me to sleep and then put me in. I don't think I would do well in a universe reality where wakeful dreams is a thing, because I already have pretty like lucid dreaming, and so then I just feel like I would never be 100% sure if I'm awake or if I'm asleep. It would be
Inception for you.
It would be Inception for me, and it would really mess me up long term.
Yeah, I'm curious, like how you know, because so far it's just like Dylan tells her that she's in a wakeful dream, and the first time we saw it, like Quentin told her. But I'm like, how does Dylan know? You know what I mean? Like, are there specific tells that you're in a wakeful dream or not?
Especially given that she's just now learning that it's a magical world. So like anything random can happen, and she'd be like, oh, it's a magical world. Right. Like things be happening.
And I could totally see how she wouldn't know that that's what they're in, but I could see how other folks could, you know what I mean? Could figure it out. Or like be taught, like, this is how you know you're in a wakeful dream. But I don't know what that is.
I don't like it. I don't think I like this world. There's like a lot of AI. There's drones. There's wakeful dreams.
See, I actually
you don't
do
say,
like
Robyn. Since chapter 1, you've been like, I would go home. I would go home.
Like I really do want to. I want to find the whimsy in it, but everything that is like whimsy or it's like terrifying.
It's that critical brain. You can't turn it off. Because that's like, I'm like, because I'm both like, yes, there are those like questions, but I'm also like, just on its face, this is kind of cool. Especially, I think it's cool in the context of tryouts, right? Because it's not like there's no
permanent damage. I don't know. If you die in a wakeful dream, you probably die in real life.
Well, no, because we'll see. Like, we'll get to like the thing, but it's like I think that you don't. I think it's literally like this is all happening, and then you're, you know what I mean? Like,
when
I think
you like die, you wake up.
You just wake up. So yeah, I kind of feel like
whole thing very stressful.
Yeah, I think I personally like it versus them having to do this in real. Like we've read plenty of books, including on this podcast, where we see like deadly tasks to do this thing. Whereas like here, they're clearly trying to keep these people safe, like these kids safe within, certain like parameters or whatever. But like
this is a simulator, and like like the room that there is for the mutants training at the school. Not to say that they don't get thrown into the real life version of those rooms, but
say that sentence again and look at who you're talking to. This is a simulator. You lost me. I don't.
You don't know what?
No, I hate it. My skin is literally crawling right now, and I've already read this. I don't think I like this world. I do love these books. But there's something about like reading magical books where I'm like, I want to go here. I have not had. Even the movie terrifies me.
See, I'm more like, I don't want to be in this particular part of the like.
I would not be doing Amari's path in this world,
but I would be down to be here. I would just be in a different department.
I would not be in Amari's path. I would be doing something. I'd be doing some research. I would not be.
Yeah, I mean, there is something particularly messed up about Amari's path, but I just, I don't.
We're so excited to bring you all kinds of nerdy and creative content, but we can't do that without your support.
Becoming a B&C baddie helps us with the general upkeep of our site, upgrade equipment, and invest in the team's creative development.
Go to help out your favorite nerds and stay for cool perks like monthly live streams, behind the scenes, and bonus content, and more. If supporting Black creators sounds like your bag, you can sign up at www.patreon.com/blacknerdscreate. So now we know why Fiona and Magnus told Amari to wait the night instead of just taking her like resignation in the moment.
Can I say too, I like really love what did she say here? She goes, I'm not a fan of being tricked. Yeah. I'm like, you didn't tell them why you were trying to quit.
Right.
You weren't being tricked though. They just withheld information, like you withheld information. Like my how the turntables, basically.
But who is a fan of being tricked? Like, one scenario, someone like, oh, you tricked me.
That was great. That's like, my birthday's on April Fool's Day, and Ami was like, we can't do April Fools because of your birthday. I'm like, not really. I don't ban it. I just personally, I don't need to be involved in that. That ain't got nothing to do with me. That's not fun to me. So why would I want to do it on my birthday? You know what I'm saying?
Actually a prankster? Is that something that
she wishes? There was a couple years ago. What was that? There's a couple years ago where we were still in quarantine, and we were making like iced teas at the time. And so I had made like an iced tea, and I had pulled it out, and then I think I maybe left to go to the bathroom or do something, grab something, and I came back, and there was a note on it that said, Ami was here, ha 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 ha. And that was the April Fool's. Like, it was on my, and I was just like, okay. Like, great, April Fools. Like,
she was didn't know with her.
I don't think she really gets it, but it's very,
it's childlike and cute. She went through this one thing with her brother. I think because she saw me do it. I think I might have been when you like change their like icon on like shared.
They just
stuff.
got over a war with that more than maybe the second or third time.
So That's like the closest I would say to like an actual real good prank.
Yeah, except they do it all the time, so it's not.
They do it all the time.
We'll
so
randomly change his icon name. They know who it is. It's the two of them. Every time you log into Netflix, they got different names and icons. But like,
I changed my brother's like settings on Netflix or one of our shared accounts to like Spanish. It was hilarious. I don't even think it was Spanish. It might have been like Portuguese too, because I was like, it needs to be like something where he thinks he knows what's going on, but he doesn't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I did it the one time.
Right.
She does it all the time.
But also like, yeah, she does that all the time with them. She tried to rope me in. One time we got it. I think she got it because we all got into it, and she didn't start. Like the first time, I think maybe Akira started it or something. But like, it was like a sibling thing. But since then, I'm like, I don't need to be involved. It's not that deep. Just like I got other stuff to do, and I don't be on Netflix like that anyway to even check. So it's not gonna really work for me.
But it's the only thing that I would consider like actual prank like behavior.
Yeah. And I don't even know what she would do if she was to do April Fool's, like, for real at this point. So I'm like, you can do it, just not with me. Like, I just, again, don't enjoy that. That's not a fun thing for me. I don't hate it. I'm just like, it's silly and it's not interesting. That could probably be cut, but still, like, yeah, I don't think anyone really enjoys being tricked like that. So yeah, but then she's also like, maybe it means that they think I have a chance of passing. And then she's like, oh, but I can't pass, not with Lara holding that video over my head. So she's just like in her head.
Going through it.
Yeah.
But I do get that sense of like on the one hand, but on the other hand, but on the one hand, but on the other hand, like I get that all the time. I'm like currently going through it with like, when do I move? But there is that added thing where she's like, and is me not doing well, like going to affect Dylan, right? And that's where I always end up being like, if I make a decision that like that I have to deal with, then like cool. But if I make a decision and then there's like fallout for other people, then I need to like not do that, or I need to be straight up. And I do like that she has that thought process. Like I think that that's like actually like a really great I mean, Amari is like just like a really great person and kid in general. That's why the book's named after her. But it is like a very like empathetic thing. And I know that she doesn't feel this way, and it's more like us reading it feeling this way, but I'm like, Dylan doesn't deserve your empathy. Like, F that kid. But she gives it to him, and they're friends.
Yeah.
One-sided friendship, though it might be.
Well, I mean, you're getting ahead of yourself.
Oh, sorry. I'm just so mad about the whole, like, I put myself out on the line for you to tell you that I'm Magician Girl 18.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Dylan remains sus, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Amari asks if they're partners, because it's just the two of them in this room. But before he can answer, a red flame bursts into existence between them. It grows, burning white hot before exploding into a fiery message, which reads, "Welcome to the first junior agent tryout. Get to the basement downstairs and retrieve what was stolen. Hint, it's the most valuable thing you'll find. Be prepared to explain your choice, and remember your every decision will be judged. Good luck." So yeah, so they're kind of just like, you know, trying to figure out what's going on, guessing that there's more than one object they'll have to choose from. But the first question is, are they supposed to work together, or is it like, are they in competition? Amari's first instinct is that it's a competition because this is elimination, right? Like half the trainees, or at least half, I think, have to go at the end of this. But Dylan points out that agents always work in pairs. So with that, they decide that they're gonna work together until something tells them that they can't. Which I think I like this like thing because it kind of shows like that they work well together, and like one strength is the other's weakness and vice versa or whatever. So they decide to work together. They kind of look around their surroundings, see just see things like there's a lot of books, there's cobwebs. Initially they think it's an abandoned house, but then Amari notices a pot of flowers that have like clearly been taken care of. So they're like, okay, so somebody else is here. They keep going and Dylan takes the lead. It kind of seems like it's an empty house, but as they walk, they also can kind of like hear voices and stuff. I don't know. I again would not be here. It's kind of how I'm feeling. Um so they get to an open doorway. There's a weapons room. They both choose weapons. Amari chooses an axe, which I'm like, I don't know what makes her choose it other than that it looks cool. But also like I don't know what weapon she would, you know what I mean? It's not like there's like a better weapon for her to choose because it's not like
she said crossbow, and I'm like, actually, crossbows are like, as long as you got the arrows, crossbows are supposed to be like the simpler arrow.
Yeah.
An axe to me just seems like you have to be very close.
Yeah, and like she says this one is light, but
unless it's like a long, like a long axe.
Unless it's a shotgun axe.
Bring back shotgun
Even
axe.
then, I know. But yeah, it just feels like you have to be very close combat, and I'm not about that life.
If I have to engage with blood, I need it to be as far away from me as possible because I don't do well with blood.
Yeah,
I do like the idea of the crossbow because of that distance thing, but aren't they like? Isn't it easy to like hurt yourself? I don't know.
I know it's a lot to reload.
It's not. You just gotta keep arrows on you. That's the only thing. It's like you got to keep them arrows on you. You run out, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, she chose the axe.
Dylan chooses like knives, I think. Yeah, he chooses a dagger. They keep going, and then as they're walking, gleaming red eyes.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Dylan has like supernatural aim.
That's what the crystal ball was saying.
Yeah.
We're not totally
sure. We're not sure, but like that is like his noted superpower. Yeah. And so I do think that like the dagger is actually a cool choice because it feels like you got to get close, but you could just like fling that thing.
That's true.
If you got your dang,
yeah, that's very true. Okay, so they keep walking. Dylan stops, and Amari also sees these gleaming red eyes appearing in the dark. A hulking frame in tattered clothing steps into the light of the second doorway, its head hanging unnaturally to one side. It's missing an arm, and one of its legs is turned the wrong way. It moves with jerky steps. A growl fills the hallway. So this is a zombie, which again, that would be like, I'd be like, all right, take me out. I'm done. I failed. Over with. But Dylan starts to lift the dagger, but then Amari notices that the zombie is holding a bouquet of flowers, and it walks right by them. Doesn't even like notice them. So Amari says, just because we're afraid, it doesn't give us the right to attack. Where I'm from, that happens a lot. You get labeled as bad or scary just because of how you look or what neighborhood you're in. And then it was like, remember the flower pot in the library? I bet that's what was going to put flowers in it. Which is like, I appreciate her, like how her experiences kind of inform how she acts or thinks.
Interacts in the world.
Yeah, and like that, how that is like written, I think is really good. It again would not be me, because if I saw a zombie, I wouldn't attack it. I would run. Like, I'm not about to like come at it with a dagger or an axe. I'm just like, y'all could take me out of this wakeful dream. Over with. Like, I don't even know why I'm here in the first place. Like, that would be me. But
It reminded me of like Agent K and Men in Black because the story is frequently compared to Men in Black. And Agent K in Men in Black, whenever he goes to the gun range and he waits to shoot and he doesn't shoot until it's the mysterious white girl with like the metaphysics book, and he's like, "What's she doing out here?" Like, this man, he's snarling because he's hungry. I can't let him go because he's having a hard time getting the rapper off. Like, that's not on me. That's just that guy having a hard time. But this girl, that's suspicious. Why is she out here in the middle of the night with this book? Something's going on here. And I love that, like, that's the similar vibe here. And it's like the perception is like what you see in front of you as like the like what you're stereotyped is and told are the bad people or the bad beings or whatever. You can't go off of that stereotyping. And I love that, like, for Amari in particular, she's taken that in as like, I've seen stereotyping go down for people in where I grow up. And that is why I am not going to be throwing stereotypes onto someone else. So I really appreciated that. But it also made me like laugh and recalling that Men in Black moment.
Yeah, and it's also in the way that she treats Dylan too, or like even before she knew who.
Yeah,
like,
she didn't want to. She didn't want to like cast Magician Girl 18 as a bad person, and a lot of that was because she was a magician. Like, it's very in keeping. I think it's really interesting though because I forget. There's like maybe it was like a video game. I'm not sure, but like. You're like shooting at targets, but sometimes they have like, you know, it's a baby and whatever. But there's something about like the adrenaline of like having these weapons, being told, you know what I mean? And so like even having the wherewithal and like you said about like having her and Dylan like together, to like stop and actually look at the entire person, I think it's like a different like gift or skill set than just having the empathy. Like, cause I would like to believe that I would be like, oh, he has flowers or whatever, but he's a zombie. Like, I don't know if I would have even noticed anything else except like there is a zombie walking towards me. I don't think I would have seen what was in his hands.
No.
Good for me is like I already know my fight or flight response is freeze, so I probably wouldn't have got a shot off because like
I wouldn't have attacked. It would not. I would not have attacked.
But I would not have. I also don't think I would have noticed the like flowers and that he was like cool. You know, I'd have turned around and ran. It would have been one of them. Oh, you running? Why are we running? Girl, zombie, run. So,
yeah, exactly. So then Amari takes the lead. They go into the next doorway, so it's a room with a view of the desert landscape. Which I think I don't think we talked about that there is a desert. Like, so they're in this house, but there's a desert around it. Aw. She knocked out.
not.
So yeah, so the house that they're in is surrounded by the desert. It's all there is like a cactus outside that's been already chopped down. So it's pretty desolate out there. So yeah, so back to the room. There's a girl tucked into the shadows. She's calling for help. Amari recognizes her as a junior agent trainee. Her name is Stephanie, and she has a sword by her side. She's like, I don't want to be a junior agent anymore. Did you see that thing in the hall? Can I come with you guys? Dylan's immediately like, no. And like, this is kind of like the flip side. So Amari is more inclined to help Stephanie, but Dylan is kind of like taking in the whole picture. So asking where her partner is, asking her if she's left the room. She says she hasn't. And then Amari's like, I'm gonna help her. And Dylan's like, no, where did she get the sword from? Like, if she hasn't left the room, why does she have this sword? And then a wicked grin spreads across Stephanie's face, revealing fangs. Amari freezes up because they remind her of Moreau, but Dylan pushes the girl back and she stumbles into the sunlight and dissolves into a cloud of ashes. So,
what is that?
I assume a
vampire.
Vampire?
Yeah.
In every book that I've read, vampires burst into flames when they hit sunlight, but maybe it's just a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, ashes are
Maybe they didn't want to traumatize the children with the imagery of the flames coming up, so they were just like, the dusting will be enough. They don't need to see the flame portion.
But they do need to fight a vampire, Porshèa.
Yes. And they need to see a zombie with flowers. It's the same. Yes. It's all good.
All right.
So then
they do make a good team. We should say that.
I think also, like, it's very, like, telling that Dylan can tell when there's a mean girl lurking because of who he's grown up with. He's like, I know trickery when I feel it.
He's like, I am very, very familiar with wolf in sheep's clothing with some little girl tears. Mm-hmm. I know that intimately. I know the signs.
Yeah, so they keep going. Amari has a moment where she's like realizing that like having a partner is working out. And then she kind of thinks about the fact that Dylan trusts her and like, am I really going to let him fail because of me? So this is like a moment where she's like, okay, I don't, again, what Robyn was talking about earlier about like, if it's more than just you, I'm not trying to make things like difficult for the other folks involved. Yeah, so she's like, at this point she's like, I have to try my best, like I don't want to, she's wanted real friends for so long, somebody to have her back, and she wants to make sure that she has like his back too. So she's like, I can always quit after the tryout, I'm not gonna like blow it here. So they find a staircase at the end of the hallway. They go down as quietly as possible. There's a dark stone room waiting at the bottom of the stairs. A row of pedestals is down the middle, leading to a tall red door in the middle of the back wall. So they keep going, and nothing really is happening. Which they both are kind of like, this feels too easy. There's no like booby traps, no, they're not like going through a laser grid or nothing crazy. So they look at the pedestals. There are 4 in all, each a little taller than the one before. The first one holds a painting of a giant sea dragon crushing a large wooden ship. Electricity sparks from the beast's massive body. And that is a Leviathan, which is one of the 7 great beasts.
Write it down!
Let's go! Now I have to remember where we wrote it down.
Uncovering the mysteries. And we knew there had to be a dragon somewhere, but we were like, yeah, but we were like, it's no, not like, the dragon. Great dragon name or something, like, no, a sea dragon. That makes, okay.
Like an electric one too. Like, let's
electric sea dragon. How do you keep yourself together?
Leviathan. Okay, let's see where. Now I'm like, where did we write this down? We have too many documents for this podcast.
I think it was just in the
agenda.
I know, but I'm trying to.
Let me go to Spotify, and we asked that question.
I found it.
Okay,
fine. Sorry, because we had said, what was the first one? Shoot, now I'm forgetting what the main one was.
It was
It was the Indomitable Snowman. Because that's who they were keeping locked up down in the Arctic.
Snowman and the Leviathan. Now that's 2. Those are 2 confirmed, and then the rest.
There's something else that wasn't there. One something else was confirmed. No,
those are just
catfish. No, those are we.
Yeah, the rest were
speculation.
Guesses.
I feel like there might have been one more,
but I'd never thought about a Leviathan. Like,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I've heard that word, but I've only heard it in the context of the Leviathan was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., wasn't it? But it was like somebody was a Leviathan. But it was like a code
secret
name.
Society.
But it was like it was a code name. So I, in my head, never thought about what it actually was. But I'm pretty sure wasn't it?
I've always heard it in terms of like talking about the size of something being enormous. Like, it's always like the Leviathan sized. Like, it's like a size thing.
I always thought of it as like a shadowy organization.
I
didn't know it was a beast at all.
Yeah, no. Agent Carter.
Agent Carter.
There was like,
yes,
they were like, oh, the Leviathan. Which is funny because it's similar
that black
to a Hydra.
gooey stuff?
No, I think it was a code name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
People
group.
use
it
it to like describe like ships or like, they'll be like, it's a challenge to navigate a wheeled Leviathan in a rush hour traffic. And it's like, they use it for size scale. And I never really realized what they were measuring up to scale the thing to. Like a large sea dragon.
Yeah. Well, the more you know.
This is the dragon that we should have got in Game of Thrones instead of the stupid zombie dragon that somehow has freaking ice, whatever, laser powers.
I liked the ice dragon, but I didn't like how we.
It wasn't actually ice though. It was like a zombie.
Yeah, I know. That's
laser.
I didn't like how we got there.
I'm like, it didn't even use. I'm like, it'd be one thing if it actually blew ice, but it didn't even blow ice, and I was like, this is dumb.
It was. There were a lot of reasons why it was not good. Okay, so the second pedestal has a bowl of clay, covered in primitive markings, so that's super old. And then the next is a glittering diamond bracelet, and the fourth is a golden crown. So they're kind of looking at the crown. Amari thinks like the diamond might make me rich, but a crown would make me queen. But it can't be that simple, can it? So they both are so she goes towards the crown, and there's a large boom that echoes through the room as something crashes on the other side of the big red door. They're both kind of like, the closer they get to the crown, the more whatever is behind that door is freaking out. So Dylan's like, grab the crown. Amari snatches it. The red door bursts open, sending a wave of water through the room. It knocks her off her feet, carries her back to the third pedestal. Dylan is sliding, waving his arms for something to hold on to. He slams hard into the back wall and vanishes. So that's kind of like how, like, as we can see, it's like not harmful. Like, he's woken up, he's gone. So now it's just Amari on her own.
I'm sorry, but whenever the line was said that the red door in a tidal wave of water knocks her off her feet, the song
Beyonce
makes me weaken, knocks me off my feet. I'm like, I don't know why we're here, but we're there.
See, and I was just, hold up, they don't love you.
So Amari's on her own. She dropped her axe when the wave hit her, but she still has the crown. So she's like, realizes that because the dream hasn't ended, like, it's still not over, she has to get up the stairs. The room beyond the door is full of water, but it isn't pouring out. It's like the water has been magic to stay inside. There's a huge water python in the water, which, no thank you. Again, no thank you. But it kind of hisses, bares its fangs, but it's not following her. So she's like running toward the she like thinks like, oh, should I get the axe and fight it? And then she's like, yeah, right, like, I know I can't do like, I can't do
also
anything.
She left her like axe like 5 leagues beyond her.
She like doesn't have the axe. She would have to find the axe and then attack, and like, she's like, no, that's not gonna work. So she just decides to run. But as she runs, she realizes that the snake isn't chasing her, and then realizes that the crown isn't what they came for. So she stops, drops the crown, and then the second her foot touches the first stair, the world around her vanishes. So she wakes up and she's out of the so there's like the shades over her eyes. An agent lifts the shades from her face, and she's surrounded by the other trainees. And then we find out that she made it the longest. So that's usually a good sign that like she's passed, but they have to go to the auditorium to like find out the results. Also, they have to change it back into their trainee uniforms, which I'm just like, what was the point of like making? They like had this whole ruse of like change it to your pajamas. We're gonna have a sleepover.
My question is, what time of day is it? I'm like, have they slept so long that it's now daytime? So now it's time to put on actual clothes and not PJs, or are you just being made to put on clothes again for the presentation?
I'm like, but I also did think about like, what if they had to go to the briefing in their pajamas?
This is literally the worst sleepover ever.
Very much so.
And it's interesting too, because if Amari is like one of the first people who went to sleep because she wasn't socializing, so, and her dream was the longest, so then maybe she did have a full sleep cycle, because how long did it take them other girls to go to sleep?
But have you ever had like a really stressful dream? You don't feel rested after that.
No.
Yeah.
They gotta go take naps after their sleepover.
Yeah.
It's my sound of disapproval. I don't have another option, but
yeah.
Okay,
so they get to the briefing auditorium. They're told to go stand next to their partner. So Amari goes over to Dylan. Amari is kind of like not sure. She's like, I've either got this thing all figured out or I screwed up big time. So I love those decisions where you're like, I don't know, it's either really bad or really good, nothing in between.
I hate that whenever that happens in tests, like in school. Yeah. I used to be so annoyed by tests because like I was known for getting good grades, but I'm like, dude, like that don't mean nothing. Like I don't know. I don't know what this test did to me. Like this could be the test that I do crappy on because it happens, or it could be the test that I did well on. I don't know. I really do not know.
It's like,
I feel like that was like most of my schooling, especially because I was a communications major, media studies major. It was like there isn't actually a right answer. It's more about how you present the answers.
Well, that's college.
And you're like,
yeah, in college, I'm like, it's all about making your case, and I can make a case about almost anything. But a test, especially math, like who knows what I did?
Oh, I knew I was not doing well. I knew I didn't know what was going on.
So Fiona clears her throat, steps to the center of the stage, and is saying that basically, like, everybody should be proud of themselves. The tryout is designed to trick you, test your instincts and ability to work as a team, which are like foundations to making a great agent. Every single action is judged, but there were 3 automatic disqualifiers. So the first test was simple. Did you leave the library together? There were a few close calls, but ultimately only 2 pairs failed that task. And then those pairs have failed from.
And I really was hoping that the pair that decided not to do it was Laura, because she's all in for herself.
I know.
That was her. It was out for her, but sadly, her name is not the one that gets called.
No, it's just people that we don't know. So they have to go. Next, the chance to get a weapon, and then a chance to use it. So depending on the combined level of familiarity with the supernatural world, there were more or less clues that Mr. Zombie was not a threat. So, for example, a pair with no familiarity had the zombie show up in pink polka dot pajamas, humming "Happy Birthday" while carrying the bouquet of flowers. So they do account for like knowledge level, which I think is cool. And like,
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Like,
but then it was also like, sorry, go ahead.
But I was like, it also at the same time does kind of trick you a little bit, because if you have, for example, like it was Amari, who doesn't really have that much knowledge of the supernatural world, who saw the zombie and was like, oh no, we can't, like we shouldn't attack it, versus Dylan, who does and would be used to seeing zombies,
but they still had
to defeat.
But the zombie still had a bouquet of flowers. I wonder if, like, was there a pairing that both of them had familiarity, and then what was the sign that the zombie was okay?
I think it was that the zombie would also have those outlandish pajamas, and like it'd be much more.
But if it depends on familiarity, then it must be different.
Oh. But I think maybe that just having the flowers was like you're very familiar.
Yeah,
and Amari
I think it definitely still had a Yeah, I don't think it would have just been a zombie with nothing. I think it was either like
But
with the flowers,
but like,
some
what if
range
the
of from
zombie just like
flowers
is walking down
to.
the hall with nothing? You know what I'm saying? Like it's not paying you any mind, but it's just like
Yeah, I think if it was
not
just a straight up zombie,
wearing
I
a
don't think
definite
that.
clue that it's.
I think it would have to have some kind of clue because I think just doing
Yeah.
nothing is not really a clue because zombies already move like with without like obvious direction, if that makes sense. Like they kind of just shamble along. So yeah, I think it would still have to have some kind of external clue. It's just a matter of like how many.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just thinking though, I also wonder like I wondered about how they got paired up, and I was thinking about like they probably paired Amari with Dylan because at the last thing Dylan sat next to her when people were like obviously shunning her, right? And so it's like at
Mm-hmm.
least if anything Dylan is not outwardly hostile to Amari, and like
Mm-hmm.
Fiona and the other agents would like have seen that and picked that up and like put them together. Um But in the case of the other partners, I was wondering, like, did they try to do kind of lesser familiarity with more familiarity with the supernatural world? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Dylan and Amari are obviously complete, like, opposites, where Amari has, like, no familiarity and Dylan has been, like, born and steeped in it. But because of who Amari is, like, we got to also give her the partner who doesn't want to hurt her, you
Right.
know, or sabotage her, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering about that too. Is like, how were partners chosen? Did they get to kind of, we don't hear about it from Amara's perspective, but like did some of them get to say like if we had to have partners, I want to be partnered with this person or what, however it worked. But I'm sure that the other pairs were probably much closer together in terms of like familiarity
Yeah.
with the
Which also would be
supernatural.
interesting too for like the ones that decided not to work together. Like what
Yeah.
were those relationships like? Or like if they were homies and we're just like, "Oh, I think we're supposed to like compete." Like it's interesting. It's interesting. So yeah, but that still tripped up a few people. So she reads off some more names, more trainees leave the stage. The most effective of the disqualifiers was the stranded trainee. But he's like, it's also important to take measure of instincts and how well you analyze the situation. Um, so 8 trainees go. So at this point, there are 16 left, which means that everyone left on the stage now has passed. So that means Amari has passed. But Fiona's like, don't get too comfortable because you still got the second tryout. But 2 of them scored the highest in the tryout and get a head start at the next one. So we find out this by talking about like what they chose to take. Um Basically everyone left with the crown in hand except for Dylan and Amari. Um Dylan is of course shocked because he disappeared before um Amari finished. So everyone else kind of gives the same answer as to like why they chose the crown, but um so Fiona goes to Amari and says, "Tell me, was it a bit of genius or a severe case of overthinking that led you to drop the crown before retreating up the staircase?" Amari clears her throat and says, "I'll say genius," which I'm like, good for her.
Wait, let's also remark on how Agent Fiona was like, because whenever she gets over to them, she's like, "I'd like to ask you about the decision to not keep the
Yeah.
crown, Dylan. But you didn't make it to the end, did you?" And then Dylan goes red because he knows he didn't make it to the end.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right. I didn't mean to skip that because it's also important for the beginning of next chapter.
Yeah.
Uh. So yeah, so she asks Amari her reasoning. So Amari says that like she didn't know until she tried to escape with the crown. The water python didn't chase her, and she wondered why. And then she realized that the snake was guarding the water, not the crown. Um. And Fiona's like, why would the water be so valuable? And Amari's like, we were in the middle of a desert. So, the only thing alive was a cactus, and even that had been chopped down for water already. Um, and then she says, put a king in that desert, and he'd gladly trade his crown for a drink of water. Fiona's like, shots fired. And then says, okay, Miss Smarty Pants, why then would the water python attack when you grabbed the crown? And Amari says, because the crown was on the last pedestal. Every step closer to the crown was also a step closer to the water room that the snake was guarding. The python only knew that you were getting closer to the water and not that you were going for the crown. And then Fiona says, you were asked to retrieve what was most important. And Amari says, I did. I was dripping wet when I got to the last stair. And boom, because of that, she and Dylan have a perfect score and a 30-second head start at the next tryout, which 30 seconds is so, like, I feel like it would be a letdown to me. And, like, obviously we don't know what the next tryout is, but a 30-second head start feels
significant.
Also note that Amari is the first person to get a perfect score since her brother. So it's a Peters thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a Peters thing. You know, just a little light work.
It's a Peters thing. Sorry, trying to do a Porshèa.
And then Fiona's like, trust you'll be sticking around then, Peters. Like, she's like, see, you were trying to quit and I told you not to, and now look at you. Dylan is super excited. He picks Amari up, spins her around, is like, that was so epic, we really did it. Which, like, okay, he may not have made it to the end, but they did do that together. Like, she ended up making the final decision and is the reason why they got a perfect score. But the fact that they passed is technically down to both of them. So, like, I don't want to discount, like, the fact that he...
But she did that thing.
But she's the reason they have a perfect score.
She took them from passing to perfect.
Exactly.
Okay.
So here comes Lara, who for some reason still has not tripped, and says, give me one reason why I shouldn't send that video to my father right now. What video? Asked Dylan. I recorded your partner using a spell book inside the bureau. Caught her red-handed. Prove it, says Dylan. Lara pulls out her phone and the video is gone.
Ooh.
And then Dylan's like, there you go, making up stuff again, sis. Oh, and the book is mine, by the way. Amari's just borrowing it. You tell Dad I brought it here, and I'll tell Mom, who really maxed out her Du Bois Cosmetics credit card. And I'm like, this is like the real standing up for somebody thing. Like, before he just kind of sat next to Amari, he was a little more passive, and now he's like, all right. And I appreciate that. Like, it's called growth.
But also, how does her mama not know that it was her? I feel like this is willful ignorance on her mom's
unless
part.
she blamed somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, she says,
and then who she got blamed?
Maybe Dylan, which I don't know why that would make sense, but
right.
You know,
and Maria's not around, so it couldn't have been Maria. So who could it actually really be?
From what it could have been, she could have been like it was fraud.
True.
From what I just
hope that she didn't blame a maid or an assistant or something, because I feel like that would be up her alley.
I would assume she would blame like somebody stealing the card or something like that, and like, this is only from what I know about rich kids from movies, but the parents usually aren't all that attentive. So obviously, again, this is from movies. I don't actually know that.
But they were attentive but her mom was attentive enough to bring up it being an issue, right? Like, it's like, who...
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, in terms of...
Her mom could also, like... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, in terms of, like, if Lara... It could be a thing where Lara's like, I didn't do it, and Mom's is just like, okay. You know what I mean? Just, like, not as... Like, not pushing.
Yeah. See, and I was thinking that, like, her mom could know it's Lara... and it's just, like, wanting her to admit it, but they seem like the type of people where it doesn't matter that the card is maxed out, and they're not actually going to confront their kids. Because, like, they have a problem with Dylan collecting magician stuff, but he still gets to collect magician stuff. Like, they're not actually, like...
It's not about the money of it all. It's just about the appearance of it all. And they just need to appear like they're actually parenting by asking how the card got maxed out.
Right? Yeah. It's not really an issue. So Lara stands there stunned, then she huffs and stomps away, still on both feet, not having tripped. But Dylan calls, make sure you put the book back where you found it. Which, again, I mean, this is a little bit of karma. Like, Amari gets to stay. Lara got told off. Her video's gone.
Put it back in Amari's room. She's not invited to Amari's room.
Right.
Thank you.
She said put it back where you found it. Like, just give it back. So Lara if Lara was shocked, it's nothing to how Amari feels. She's like, you erased that video with magic? Tech magic has its benefits, says Dylan. And Amari thanks him and says, if I'd thought of that earlier, I could have saved myself a whole lot of worrying. Which is also what I thought when it first happened. I'm like, Dylan is right there. He already explained.
Right?
Like, that should have been the first person you go to.
He
But
texted you without a phone. He could hack in.
Come on.
Come on now.
But I do also get why it wouldn't have crossed her mind in that moment, because, like, it's brand new information. She's freaking out.
Lara keeps taking advantage of Amari when she's desperate. Like, Amari's vulnerable and desperate, and she takes advantage of her in those moments, and she knows that her desperate brain just goes straight up to, like, crisis mode and is not able to, like, fully think through.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as much as she, like, wants to trust in Dylan, it's still his twin sister. It's not like,
yeah, exactly,
some other mean girl.
But also, it was Dylan's book again, so it's just like little things. But again, she was panicking, so things happen. So after Amari thanks him, Dylan shrugs and says, partners have each other's backs, right? And Amari's like, definitely. That's where we end this chapter. Tight. Okay, who is your MVP?
Amari Peters.
Agreed.
Even in, like, the amount of stress, she performed well. And I think what was not shocking, but, like, cool about that to me is it wasn't even like, I'm so stressed out that I cannot, like, I'm stuck, I can't perform, I'm not at my best, right? Like, she still was able to do the things, and she was more worried about, like, the aftermath, but she still got through the tryout. And she was able to kind of, like, overcome that stress and that feeling of being tricked, that kind of overwhelmed feeling, and, like, still do what needed to be done and get a perfect score. And I just think that that's, like, already the tryout was, like, would have been difficult for her because she has no knowledge of the supernatural world. She's been launching her own investigation while she's also learning about all this stuff, while she's also dealing with bullies and being isolated. So, like, she already came into the tryout at a deficit, and then had, like, an even bigger deficit of, like, I'm about to get kicked out and possibly go to jail. Who knows? And still, perfect score. Love to see it.
Yeah. I also made Amari my MVP pretty much for the same reasons. It's just, like, I also think it's a good confidence boost to show that she is, like, in the right place and can actually do this. And, part of the reason Lara blackmailed her in the first place is because she sees her as a threat. And so she kind of just confirmed that here, so.
I made Agent Fiona my MVP because she's clearly the lead assessment creator designer here, and I liked that this tryout was designed to actually probe for things that are necessary in the field and discernment and understanding and actual, like, resourcefulness and, like, things that'll actually be useful in the field. Rather than being, like, a standardized kind of thing that the Van Helsings were misled into believing. I too also wonder, like, if the Lara's information was also due to Agent Fiona, like, kind of, like, glad handing to the director, like, by design, like, giving him a false impression of what things are going to be, or if the director actually stepped in and did it himself. But I doubt that. I feel like he'd give his kids every leg up that he could. So I love that. However it came down to be, Agent Fiona kind of, like, mitigated any factors of anyone having one big lead over another. It would come down to actual skills and ability rather than just like foreknowledge and like a level of nepotism.
Yeah. Benched. I think we're all unanimous.
Laura, and I know that we tried not to bench too many people or bench non-named characters, so this doesn't really count, but it's a special mention to whoever planned this. I guess it would be Agent Fiona, but I feel like Agent Fiona was focused on the actual tryout. Whoever planned this as a sleepover. Because the event coordinator for this
it could have been something. And I mean, I do understand the like secretive nature of it and like wanting them to be thrown off kind of situation, and not like, because as an agent, you know, stuff will happen at any given moment. It's not like you can plan for things to happen. So I understand that, but I agree that they should have like made it feel more like everyone should have went to
sleep being like, oh, this is the tryout. Something is like,
yes, in this situation. But I think if they had like,
because there's no sleepover.
If they had like, you know, put out popcorn or like, you know, put a movie on or thrown on some, just, you know, stuff like that. And like, even like, I don't think that they drugged these kids, but like, throw a little NyQuil in the popcorn, you know, or in the Slurpees or something, you know what I mean? Like, and then you can put the glasses on everyone, but like, definitely have them have fun, have them feel like they're really doing something, and then knock them out.
Yeah, I just felt like I would have been immediately like, this is suspicious.
You know who could have
go into the locker room and put on your PJs and lay down.
Yeah, it sounds like being at an older person's house or whatever. Like you're like, oh, I'm staying tonight at like someone who clearly wants me to be asleep by 9 o'clock. Like, okay, fine, sure, whatever. But for me, who I think would have thrown a really great sleepover, because I've been watching it on Disney Plus, would be like Moon Girl and or like her mama grandma. Like they would have been really great sleepover planners.
There's a Moon Girl show on
It's
Disney
animated,
Plus?
so I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, but it just dropped.
But I'm gonna watch it.
Amari to watch it. Yeah,
it's so good.
I thought you knew.
I'm sure.
And it's funny because Lawrence Fishburne is like completely in his old man era and like doing like the narration work, and he's using like his old black man voice, and it's hilarious.
I have to watch this. Lunella, I'm excited.
But yeah, we all bench Lara, and you know, for the reasons that we've already stated, pretty much.
Because she's the worst.
Still hoping on her tripping. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week for chapter 20.
Wizard Team is brought to you by Black Nerds Create. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Twitter at BLKNerdsCreate, at Yana Wrote It, at Robyn_Rambles, and at Porshèa. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Black Nerds Create. Subscribe to our monthly magic newsletter, and don't forget to rate and review. Thanks, y'all. We'll be back next week.
Bye.